thought I'd be doing this kind of a job.
Some companies may also offer a delayed start date or even help with tuition to attend grad school first. If that was something you were planning to do anyway, she says that can be a good option. But there are some things to consider.
Are you then beholden to go work for them because they did? I think you've got to ask a lot of questions. Those sort of things usually come with some handcuffs. And so you have to really understand, was I going to do it anyway? Is it just pushing it up a little bit and getting it out of the way? Is this a company that I really want to work for and I want to commit to, or am I better off going out and looking around a little bit?
Interviewing for a job can also take a lot of patience. Data from Robert Half shows it takes companies an average of 5 weeks for entry-level hires, with about 4 interviews.
And we're looking at another hot day for us across southwest Florida. Temperatures again climbing up in and around that 90-degree mark as we get in towards this afternoon. We're also tracking the potential for maybe a few showers and storms. Most of that's, though, going to be inland, Glades, and Hendry County for us. We're also going to be looking at more storm chances as we work our way through the weekend. We'll be breaking that down throughout the morning.
It's fast enough to really cover some ground, but slow enough that you could take it all in. That's right, a bicycle might be the perfect way to get out and explore and appreciate the world. But it always makes sense to play it smart, so we're peddling some bike safety basics.
Whether it's for exercise, sport, or transport, there's no doubt cycling's a good way to spend some time outdoors.
Nothing like some fresh breeze blowing in the wind.
But safety should be top priority. So we met up with Greg Genrich, owner of Bike Barn in Phoenix, Arizona, to take us back to basics with the ABCs of bike safety.
Some people have the e-bikes, some people have the traditional bikes. Are the safety protocols pretty much the same for both?
Generally, yes. E-bikes and their regular analog counterparts are very similar.
We begin with A, which stands for air.
Got to make sure you have enough air in your tires so you can stop and ride safely.
To check, squeeze your tires.
If it's firm, then you're good to go. If it's squishy and it collapses on itself, you should probably top that air off.
Inflate them to the suggested pressure, which is printed on the side of all tires.
It says 35 to 60 psi. So pumping it up to that recommended tire pressure and then doing a field check afterwards helps educate yourself on how the tire should feel.
So you get a little bit of muscle memory for what it ought to feel like.
Correct.
Let's move on to B, which stands for your brakes.
If you can't stop, you're in trouble.
Arguably one of the more important parts of and the safety aspects of the bicycle.
For a quick check, lurch your tires forward and test both of your brakes.
If they stop and grab, you're good to go. Looks like the front one works. Rear one, same thing. If they don't bite at all and the bike continues forward, you should probably take it to the local service center.
We're wrapping up our safety ABCs with the bike's chain.
You got to make sure your drivetrain is clean and in working order because it's doing all the work and movement for you.
So when cleaning time comes around, wipe down the entire chain with a rag, and once all the dirt and debris is removed, go in with chain lube.
I'll start at the master link and I'll backpedal the cranks like so.
Okay, just have a constant flow going there, so each one of those links is getting lubricated.
Correct. You really want to only be lubing inside the plates, so you got to make sure after you're done lubing it, a good clean down is a final touch.
Once your ABCs are complete, it's time for a final quick check.
So what should be my final step before going out on that ride?
You want to make sure that your wheels are fully secured. There should be no wobble in the wheels.
Stand in front of your bike holding onto your handlebar.
Putting the front tire between my legs and moving handlebars back and forth.
Because that really gives you the leverage to see if it's as tight as it ought to be.
Correct.
If it is, it's time to pack up some trip essentials like water, a pump,
and your helmet.
Can you feel this?
Not much.
All right, it works.
We're setting you up for your next road venture.
Show off.
With the ABCs of bike safety. I'm Jimmy Rhodes reporting.
Look at the size of that thing. Oh my God.
Chicago has a new celebrity.
Look at that beast. Hey, how you doing, guy? You look good.
Meet Chonkosaurus, the snapping turtle that has won over the internet with its impressive size.
Holy hell. You look good. I'm real proud of you.
The astonished man you hear on the viral video is Joey Centauri.
Okay, now you can see we're out here on a river.
Earlier this month, the 40-year-old botanist came across the enormous reptile while kayaking the Chicago River with a friend.
We were just laughing because it was so gargantuan, and the scene it created perched on these giant rusty chains.
Posting the video on Twitter, Centauri wrote, "I can only wonder what this thing's been eating." Over 800,000 views later, the people of the internet have come up with such theories as deep dish pizza and what every Chicago chunk eats. All jokes aside, experts say large snapping turtles are opportunistic eaters.
We've seen snapping turtles this size rip apart deer carcasses or raccoon carcasses.
Local wildlife biologist Chris Anker says Chonkosaurus appears to be a 40-pound female between 40 and 50 years old that just emerged from hibernation.
She's trying to expose as much of her body so that she can absorb as much heat as quickly as possible.
Anker says she's stretching out and basking in the sun to warm up her eggs.
The warmer it gets, the quicker the eggs are going to mature, and the better chance she has of emerging in about a month, again, out of the water, onto land so that she can lay her eggs.
Are you happy to have spring? Damn, that's a scene if there ever was one, man. Look at that.
For Anker and Centauri, the online passion for Chonkosaurus reflects a real-life success story with the restoration of the Chicago River.
It's in a place that's historically been very polluted and somewhat toxic, so it was, that's why it was cool to see it.
Ben Chamiso, Scripps News, Chicago.
Now, from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 5.
Thanks for joining us for Fox 4 News at 5. I'm Fox 4 certified meteorologist Katie Walls. We start with a check on your weather here across Southwest Florida. And as expected, most of us are on the dry side, but farther inland, we do have some downpours. I'll show you those momentarily. First, though, let's take a live look outside from atop the beautiful Fox 4 studios looking down Pine Island Road here in Cape Coral. And obviously, we just have some fair weather cumulus clouds outside, but conditions nice and quiet from Sarasota County through Charlotte, Lee into Collier. Not worried about any wet weather getting in the way of your evening plans. But if you're closer to Lake Okeechobee, specifically from Lakeport stretching up 78 to Buckhead Ridge, that is where we do have some healthier thunderstorms there on the northwestern side of Lake O. Helping you plan out your evening. For the most part, for the vast majority of us, we will stay sunny, we will stay hot, but those rain chances will be going up here in your 7-day forecast. I'll be updating that for you coming up in the next 15 minutes.
I'm Ryan Kruger at the Lee County Courthouse for day 2 of the Joseph Zeiler double murder trial. Much of the testimony today focused on the DNA, which eventually tied Zeiler to the case more than 2 decades after the murder. Jurors heard from a crime analyst supervisor with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement who tested the DNA. 11-year-old Robin Cornell and her babysitter, Lisa Story, were found dead in their Cape Coral home back in 1990. The case was unsolved for decades until Zeiler's DNA popped up in a database when he was convicted in a separate case from 2016. The crime analyst with FDLE said only one person could have had that DNA.
Male profiles for those 3 samples were consistent with one another.
Okay, and does that mean they came from the same contributor?
It would mean that all of the results that were obtained were the same, and therefore it does appear to be from a single donor.
The defense's line of questioning focused on whether or not it's possible for a family member's DNA to get a false result. The experts on the stand today said that is not possible. And there's already been a shakeup in the jury. One of the jurors told the judge and the attorneys in this case they were having trouble staying awake. In fact, they were falling asleep during testimony. That juror was excused. They were replaced with a first alternate. You can get all of the updates on this case right now on fox4now.com. At the Lee County Courthouse, I'm Ryan Kruger, Fox 4.
If you are still struggling to catch up on bills or even rent after Hurricane Ian, there is now help available, specifically if you live in Collier County, because starting today, residents in Collier can apply for up to $20,000 through a county program. Now, this could range for anything from rent to utilities or anything else that may fall in a rent agreement, like water, sewer, and trash bills. If you're interested, you can find the application and also who is eligible by going to fox4now.com. Also, 4 new bills are now signed into Florida law. Governor DeSantis signing the bills this morning, all of which are being criticized as anti-LGBTQ+ legislation. Now, the bills include an expansion of what some call the Don't Say Gay law, which now prevents gender identity and sexual orientation from being taught from K all the way through 8th grade. Another bill signed prevents those who identify as trans from using public facilities that align with their gender identities. The third restricts, quote, adult performances in front of minors. He also signed a new law banning gender-affirming treatments for trans minors. Well, today, Fox 4's Chris Shaw had a chance to speak with Senator Rick Scott about a federal bill that brought him to Naples last week. He's pushing for an armed officer in every K-12 school across the country and what is being called the School Guardian Act. It's something Florida is already doing. In fact, it was signed by Senator Scott when he was our governor after the Parkland school shooting in 2017.
I think it goes without saying we are all relieved and thankful that there hasn't been another major school shooting since Parkland. Do you have any evidence or data that suggests that the guardianship program here in the state of Florida has something to do with that?
I've never heard a story of a criminal that walked in where law enforcement was intentionally. Never in my whole life. And I've talked to sheriffs about it. And so they don't. Criminals don't go where there's armed law enforcement, where they go where it's easy. So my experience has been that if you have armed law enforcement that's trained, and that you're going to reduce the amount of crime. There was a story that the sheriff told me down in Collier County, where somebody they had heard of that wanted to do something. I mean, they clearly didn't want to go where there was armed law enforcement. So, and the school shooter up in Nashville picked a different school because there was security at the other school. So I think it goes without saying that if you have trained law enforcement in all of our schools, and it's going to reduce the number of school shootings. I've got grandkids. I look at this as pretty simple. I want my grandkids to be safe. I talk to my daughters about how safe their schools are. So I think that we ought to do this. We have the resources. We don't need more IRS agents. We should take that money and put in more law enforcement at every school in the country.
I want to go back to when you signed the bill into law here in Florida. That was a wide-ranging bill after Parkland. It did a number of things, not just the Guardian program, but there was also a provision in there that raised the age to buy a gun in the state of Florida from 18 to 21. Why not try that at the federal level?
But I think there's a variety of things that we did after Parkland. As you know, what I did after Parkland, I brought mental health counselors together. I brought law enforcement and educators in different groups to get their ideas. And so I think there's a lot of things you should do. What this is to do one thing, but we put mental health counselors in our schools. We did risk assessments of our troubled students. You're right. We raised the age to buy a long gun to 21. I think all those things that we harden our schools, we, fewer entrances, more bulletproof glass, things like that. I think a lot of these things should be done. They should be, but it should be done at the state level, and let the state make a decision about that.
Yeah, that was Fox 4 anchor Chris Shaw speaking with Senator Rick Scott. Well, in Sarasota today, 2 schools were forced to evacuate after the district received a suspicious call about a bomb threat. Now, students both at Venice High School and Booker Middle School were placed on a limited lockdown after the evacuations, and the district says more law enforcement was brought onto both campuses. Investigators say this call, though, was a hoax, and everyone, students, staff, and teachers are all safe. Also happening right now, the Lee County Recovery Task Force, called Resilient Lee, is meeting at the Boca Grande Community Center. Now, the task force was formed by county commissioners to help with the long-term response after Ian. We're talking a 5 to 8 year timeline. On the task force are leaders represented from every city in Lee County. That town hall tonight is until 6 o'clock. They will have another one next Wednesday in Dunbar. So this is a chance for you to speak up to see what you would like to see long-term where you live. The organization is also asking Lee County residents to fill out a survey to better serve the community. For more information, head to resilientlee.com. We also told you about the Stamp Out Hunger food drive last week right here on Fox 4. Well, today we are learning that the Harry Chapin Food Bank collected over 51,000 pounds of foods. Look at those smiles there. Now, this all happening during the one-day food drive. Folks put out non-perishable food right next to their mailbox, and mail carriers picked them up on their regular routes. Really incredible here. The food bank says the items collected will help them serve Lee County residents all throughout the summer.
FDA advisors will meet tomorrow to decide whether to approve another vaccine for RSV. This one from Pfizer aims to protect newborns by vaccinating moms late in their pregnancy. A new analysis from government regulators finds the vaccine cut the risk of babies needing to see a doctor or go to the hospital with a moderate to severe infection before they turn 6 months old. But the analysis also shows a slightly higher number of preterm births in moms who received the vaccine. A new report from Stanford University that tracks student learning is giving us a closer look at just how much students are struggling after the pandemic. The Center for Research on Education Outcomes at Stanford tracked learning patterns in 16 states to see how recovery efforts will impact students' academic careers. The research found that even if schools offer an additional 3 years of education, only about 75% of students would hit 12th grade benchmarks. That means 1/4 would remain undereducated. The research also suggests programs that schools have implemented to address COVID learning loss, like tutoring and summer school, aren't making a big difference. Math educator Stacey Roshan analyzed the Stanford research and says adding on tutoring at the end of the school day or summer school is likely to burn out students. She says the trick is offering more support during class time.
If you're adding on all these extras, that's going to load them more. But if we can kind of intervene within the school day or even within the class period and give them some extra support so they can use their class time really well, that's really different.
Roshan says once students came back to school in person, she noticed a lack of basic study skills. Students weren't able to gauge what they know, what they don't know, and when to ask questions. She believes teachers can be influential in COVID learning loss recovery if they focus on connecting with each student and follow up with them. Roshan says she's also witnessed significant improvements in her students by creating video lesson plans.
The way that I traditionally use video is for students to watch for homework before they come into class. And then in class, because they've kind of gotten those essential skills, right, through the video, they come to class and then we can start with discussion.
Roshan says she's happy to share what she's learned with other educators. You can connect with her by visiting techiemusings.com.
Facial recognition technology could soon come to an airport near you. The Transportation Security Administration is currently testing the system out at 16 airports across the country. Here's how it works. You put your driver's license into a slot so it can be scanned. Then you look at a camera to have your picture taken. That image is compared to your ID. Officials say the technology will help identify millions of people who pass through airports every day.
So basically what you're doing is scanning the ID, and we're making sure the ID is a genuine ID, not a fake ID. Then we are matching your photo, your live face, against the photo on the ID. So there's no back-end database of photos, there's no gallery of photos. You're actually matching to your own ID's photo.
The system is raising some privacy concerns, though. Critics want to know who has access to the data and what happens if the system is hacked. They also say it's important that the technology does not unfairly target people based on their race, age, or gender.
There needs to be kind of an outside audit of its use to ensure its accuracy, to make sure it's not disproportionately impacting certain groups of people. Additionally, there should be some rules in place in terms of the deletion of that data immediately after the identification.
TSA says your live photo is deleted as soon as agents accurately match your identification. But if you don't feel comfortable using the system, you can always choose to opt out.
Coming up, before you go press your luck at a Southwest Florida arcade, you may want to make sure it's even legal before you walk in the door.
The 16th annual National Walking Month that the American Health Association started to promote a healthy and active lifestyle. In today's Your Healthy Family, Fox 4 anchor Lisa Greenberg is at Lakes Park with Fox 4 meteorologist Trent Eric to talk about the physical and mental benefits of walking.
Well, it's a pretty hot day here at Lakes Park today, but they've got a farmer's market going on, and really it's always such a beautiful park to come out and take a walk. It's National Walking Month, so today we really want to focus on the physical and mental health benefits that come with taking a walk. Trent, I think the heat might deter a few people, but it's still pretty nice, right?
Yeah, especially in the morning hours and right around sunset. So, you know, in those evening hours, we call it the golden hour for a reason. That's when our weather's the most comfortable for sure.
Absolutely. Make sure you got your water as you head out for your walk. And keep in mind, it is worth beating the heat because it's so good for your physical and your mental health. In fact, I talked to someone at the David Lawrence Centers for Behavioral Health in Naples who treats clients there, and she tells me that she actually implements walking as part of the treatment plan for the people she sees. Take a listen. She explains why.
Do you guys want to go right up here?
Yeah. Walking is so simple, right? Anybody can do it.
And while the physical health benefits may be obvious,
Raises heart rate, all these kind of good things. But what people don't necessarily consider is all the benefits that it has on your mental health.
Corey Webster is a certified peer recovery specialist at the David Lawrence Centers for Behavioral Health in Naples.
We focus on helping clients that are struggling with substance use disorder kind of learn how to navigate a life of recovery through our shared lived experience.
Does that mean you've had experiences in these people's shoes as well?
Yes, so that means that I myself am in recovery from substance use disorder. I actually have 5 years sober. My sobriety date is December 16th, 2017.
Congrats, that's so incredible.
Well, I've had a profound experience, you know, as a result of, you know, learning how to navigate a life of recovery. And I actually used to be a client here at David Lawrence Center.
And she uses walking as part of the treatment plans for her clients in their 28-day Crossroads program.
We take the clients out pretty regularly on walks. So every time I facilitate a group, we're going for a walk before group and we're going for a walk after group.
She says walking helps keep people present.
Especially someone who's in recovery. A lot of the times we're struggling with depression or anxiety, you know, and what walking does is it helps keep us out of the past or worrying about the future.
But it also helps.
I'm Fox 4's Elise Chingari here in Lee County, and it's hard not to notice all of these arcades practically on every corner here in our area of Southwest Florida. But you could start to see more of these closed signs ever since the Florida Gaming Control Commission started cracking down on arcades operating illegally. The Gaming Commission says they sent out multiple letters to arcades operating illegally. 70 letters throughout Charlotte County, 4 in Collier, and 59 letters sent to arcades in Lee County. Because if an arcade room is offering illegal slot machines, they are violating state law.
They are also victimizing the public and taking advantage of them. And our goal is to have them all closed.
Florida Gaming Control Commission, also known as FGCC, is calling this a critical public safety issue, adding that since 2020, Florida has seen a significant increase in these illegal adult arcades. Since starting July 1st of 2022, the Gaming Control Commission's Division of Law Enforcement has ramped up enforcement actions statewide here in Florida.
These sites breed further violent crimes like robberies, shootings, prostitution.
And welcome back to the Fox 4 Weather Center. I'm Fox 4 certified meteorologist Katie Walls. It was another hot day. We hit 92 in Fort Myers, 87 for Naples, Punta Gorda. We hit a high of 89 degrees. And the vast majority of us, we are hot and we are dry this evening. Let's take a live look outside right now from the Luminary Hotel in downtown Fort Myers. And you can see that we are off to a nice quiet start. So overall, those quiet conditions will continue as we head into the rest of this evening. evening. So overall, we do have those fair weather cumulus clouds out there, but radar is nice and dry. Of course, temperatures, they are toasty, especially when you factor in that humidity. This is how hot it feels on your skin. Immokalee right now feeling more like 94, 93 for LaBelle. Currently, that heat index in Palmdale, Moorhaven, 94 degrees. Arcadia, you're our winner. Right now, it's feeling more like 95. A little cooler along the coastline, at least moderated by the Gulf there. Generally feeling more like the lower 90s down to Naples. Right now, Sanibel, that heat index sitting at 87 degrees. With that westerly wind picking up, you might have noticed it is a bit breezy at times. That is helping to force any shower and storm activity farther inland. So let's take a closer look now. Right here for the northwestern side of Lake Okeechobee. So if you are in interior Glades County, from Lakeport up 78 to Buckhead Ridge, we do have this healthy thunderstorm that is nearly stationary, producing very heavy rainfall in this particular part of our viewing area. Otherwise, conditions are dry across southwest Florida. That will continue to be the case through the rest of this evening and heading into tomorrow morning. Partly cloudy skies to kick things off. Once again, for your Thursday afternoon, best chance for that development will stay inland to the east of I-75. That means the coast will stay dry, but for DeSoto County, eastern Charlotte, eastern Lee, into northern and eastern Collier County, into Glades and Hendry, that's where we're going to be seeing most of those showers and storms bubble up. But even like today, they will be pretty isolated and fairly hit and miss. Looking ahead now to your Friday. Friday, likewise, lots of sunshine to kick off the day. And looking ahead to the afternoon, those showers and storms bubbling up with the heating of the day, but staying inland once again. So if you have outdoor activities planned along the coast to the west of I-75, I am expecting nice, quiet conditions for those outdoor dinner time reservations. For tonight, clear skies will drop down to 72 degrees. It's going to be a muggy start yet again. Up to 90 we go for the afternoon, but factor in that humidity, it's going to be feeling more like 93 to 95 degrees for the afternoon. And step ahead into the weekend. Afternoon and evening storms on tap for your Saturday, backing down those rain chances a touch for Sunday. Then heading into next week, it looks things will be a bit more active.
This API Heritage Month, we spotlight an ancient Filipino tattoo ceremony that is more than 1,000 years old. We spoke to a practitioner who is reviving this tribal practice. It's called batok, an indigenous form of tattooing based in the Philippines, and it dates back to pre-colonial days.
Batok is a spiritual ritual ceremony.
Batok involves tapping ink made of charcoal soot to the skin, using ancient tools like bamboo sticks, thorns, or in practitioner Natalia Rojas' case, bone.
How we then put the ink on the skin is tapping these implements onto the skin.
But it's more than just getting inked. Filipino Americans come to Rojas to get rooted in their history. There are prayers, oral histories, and connection with their ancestors before they get tapped, and each marking is symbolic, depending on tribal roots.
I prefer to call it ancestral markings. This has existed for thousands of years in our islands in the Philippines, but due to Christianization and colonization, unfortunately, the practice had been put to sleep.
There are 14 to 17 million indigenous peoples in the Philippines, and many had markings to distinguish their tribes before the Spanish colonized in 1565. Rojas says there are only a handful of batok practitioners using this ancient tradition around the world. The famous is Apo Wang Od, who graced Vogue magazine at 106 years old, the oldest woman to ever appear on the cover.
When you have ancestral markings on your body, you show the world that you're not fully colonized. Use it as a compass to navigate this modern world with ancestral wisdom.
Can you show us some of the markings that you have on your body?
Oh, definitely. So there's some on my fingers right about here. My fingers have been tattooed, and my wrists.
Rojas has tattoos all over her body, but she doesn't want to describe her tattoos in detail so it doesn't get culturally appropriated. When it comes to non-Filipinos wanting a tattoo, Rojas is very selective. Because the markings are symbolic of one's tribe, it is in a sense adopting non-Filipinos into the community. One has to either be married to someone who is Filipino or have contributed or helped the community in a huge way. For Rojas, the ancient art of batok is a connection to the past.
Because we can still exist in this modern world and yet still be guided and be reminded that we are never alone, that we come from a beautiful, rich history.
Kat Sandoval, Scripps News, Chicago.
When a person in this country commits a crime, there are often mandatory minimum sentences that dictate how long they'll end up spending in jail. But I'm going to show you why there's a new push to evaluate the impact those mandatory minimum sentences often have. To walk a mile in Gwen Levi's shoes is to truly understand the inner workings of the American justice system.
I knew that I had to change, so in order to change, what you got to do, you have to learn some new things. You have to do some new things.
At 77 years old, Gwen Levi will tell you she knows most people do not think she looks like a drug dealer. But it was heroin that landed her here, behind bars, in 2006.
I couldn't argue innocence in my case, and I didn't want to argue innocence because I wanted to accept responsibility for what I had done.
A federal judge in Maryland found Levi guilty of dealing heroin. She was sentenced to 400 months in prison, the minimum amount dictated to the judge by mandatory minimum sentencing requirements.
To me, at the age I was 59, turning 60, at the age I was, it was life. It meant that I was supposed to be like almost 93 years old when I got released.
That, though, is how hers became just one story in the renewed national debate over mandatory minimum sentencing requirements.
The individual is not looked at. It's just a blanket case.
Here's how mandatory minimum sentences work. If a person is found guilty of, say, robbing a bank and there are minimum sentencing requirements in the state or federal court where they are convicted. Sentencing requirements require a judge to give a minimum number of months or years as jail time, no matter the circumstances.
And it takes the hope away. It takes the promise of better things to come for your life while you're inside.
One size fits all rarely fits all. Every case is unique. Every person's unique.
That is Molly Gill. She serves as the Vice President of Policy for Families Against Mandatory Minimums, or FAM.
We're not safer when we put everyone in prison indiscriminately. We need to be wise about the prison resources that we use and who we send to prison and how long they stay.
Gill says the biggest problem with mandatory minimum sentences is that they don't take into account an individual's circumstances or level of involvement in a crime.
What we know is that mandatory sentences don't make these crimes go away. We've had mandatory minimums for drugs and guns and all kinds of other crimes for 30 years, and we still have problems.
Over the last decade, 37 states have either repealed mandatory sentencing guidelines or have expanded judicial discretion, giving judges more leeway when sentencing someone to jail time.
Proposing a mandatory minimum sentence is the easiest thing for a lawmaker to do.
In some cases, it is simply not justice to let people out with a light sentence for a major crime like murder or rape.
There are plenty of people, though, who say rolling back mandatory minimum sentences takes away the rights of crime victims, including Kent Scheidegger with the Criminal Justice Legal Foundation.
Sometimes the sentence a person gets depends more on which judge he draws than what he did. And that is not just, and it sometimes results in excessively lenient sentences.
As for Gwen Levi, lung cancer and a nonviolent declaration from the Justice Department led to her early release in February.
Supervised release in the above captioned case is terminated. I am no longer involved in the United States criminal justice system.
She is now spending her days with her grandkids and pushing for change against the very same laws which landed her behind bars.
Making sure that that discretionary power, that power of second chances is not taken away, that it is continued, that it is given and expanded.
Chris Conti, Scripps News, Baltimore.
Gone are the days of the $20,000 new car. That's becoming less of an option for used cars too. What to look out for to still get a deal in your budget.
Time is of the essence, and in Collier County, it means connecting your smartphone to 911 in an emergency. We'll break down why it's so important as we are just 2 weeks away from hurricane season.
Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 5.
I'm Fox 4 meteorologist Andrew Shipley, and today the Collier County Sheriff's Office highlighted their newest 911 technology, which they say is already decreasing response times and allowing for better deployment of resources in major events like Hurricane Ian.
Rapid SOS connects your smartphone directly with 911 without any sign-up, giving operators your exact location. And if you have your health information on your phone, it will also send that directly to first responders. It can also act as a backup when phone lines or traditional 911 systems go down. Rapid SOS founder and CEO Michael Martin tells Fox 4 that the system will then place all calls on a single map. That means operators can see if there's hotspots of incidences so they can triage 911 calls in real time.
Every minute you save in response time is traditionally going to cut mortality rates by 7 to 10%. So allowing 911 to immediately know your precise location, to even know critical medical history, getting that immediately in the fingertips of 911 and first responders can absolutely be life-saving.
Collier County Sheriff Kevin Rambaugh says this technology is already paying off, helping the Sheriff's Office locate a plane that crashed in the Everglades in 2021. The sheriff says this technology is very helpful in situations where people are lost or don't know where they're at.
The Sheriff's Office tells me the system is completely funded via grant for the next 5 years, meaning no cost to the taxpayer. Coming up at 6, hear how Rapid SOS will be used to provide the Sheriff's Office with even more tools in the future. In studio, meteorologist Andrew Shipley, Fox 4.
And turning to our weather now locally here across Southwest Florida, live look from the beautiful Tarpon Lodge. Just some fair weather cumulus clouds outside, but overall a very pleasant evening for those of you heading outdoors. Of course, those temperatures definitely on the warm side. Take a look at this right now. Your feels like temperature when you factor in that humidity, it's feeling more like the mid 90s. Farther inland, more like 94 in Palmdale as well as Immokalee. Arcadia feeling more like 95 degrees right now. Fort Myers feeling more like 91. So overall, some very warm heat indices this evening. Now temperatures themselves staying in the upper 80s and low 90s this afternoon, pretty close to average. But as we look ahead to the next 7 days, we are expecting those temperatures to be running above normal, especially pushing ahead into the weekend. That will also arrive with higher rain chances. I'll dive deeper into that in the next 10 minutes.
Talks are continuing over the debt ceiling, but President Biden is saying today he's confident we'll avoid an unprecedented debt default. That comment comes a day after a second meeting in the Oval Office with congressional leaders. The president and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy have a number of negotiators trying to come up with a final deal. McCarthy also said today he doesn't think we'll have a debt default, but that the problem is the timeline is very short. The Treasury Department is saying the U.S. could start defaulting on June 1st.
Today, a grand jury indicted the man accused of stabbing 4 University of Idaho students to death. That means there won't be a preliminary hearing. Brian Kohberger is facing 4 counts of murder and 1 count of burglary. Authorities arrested the Washington State University PhD student in December after a 6-week search. He's expected to be arraigned on Monday and is expected to enter a plea then. Prince Harry and his wife Meghan say paparazzi aggressively followed them in their car after a charity event in New York City. A spokesperson for the couple says the incident resulted in multiple near collisions with other drivers, pedestrians, and 2 NYPD officers. New York City's mayor called it reckless and irresponsible for anyone to be chasing people in cars in the city. The couple's experience is drawing comparisons to the 1997 deadly car crash of Harry's mom, Princess Diana. Today, President Biden honored 9 public safety officers with the Medal of Valor. It's the nation's highest award for first responders. 3 NYPD officers, a Colorado police official, a Houston police officer, an Ohio sheriff's deputy, and 3 New York City firefighters received the award.
There's an old saying that the only things certain in life are death and taxes. But for black and poor taxpayers in America, there is another certainty. They are far more likely to face an audit. If you think taxes and auditing is unfair, the IRS says you're right. But it's more unfair for black taxpayers, the agency admits, who are far more likely to be audited than other filers.
Black taxpayers are at least 3 times as likely to be audited by the IRS.
Equity is a critical part of effective tax administration.
We should be constantly understanding where activities are having a disparate impact on any particular group. It's particularly concerning if it's having a disparate impact on racial minorities.
During his confirmation hearing in January, IRS Commissioner Daniel Werfel vowed to get to the bottom of a report by researchers at Stanford, Michigan, and the University of Chicago that detailed the audit disparities.
I will, if confirmed, work with the IRS to understand why this is happening, get to the root cause, and figure out solutions so that it doesn't happen in the future.
This week, in a letter sent to Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon, Werfel confirmed what the professors had found, saying black taxpayers may be audited at higher rates than would be expected given their share of the population. The IRS says it does not keep detailed records on race, but Werfel suggested applying for the Earned Income Tax Credit may be an audit trigger.
Many workers with low to moderate income may be eligible for the Earned Income Tax Credit, also called EITC.
The credit has been around since the mid-1970s, designed to assist the working poor. The IRS says that in 2022, 31 million filers got an average boost of about $2,000. The researchers suspect applying for the credit may be affecting the algorithm the IRS uses to decide who gets audited. This week, Werfel said the IRS is investigating those algorithms. In a statement, Senator Wyden said, "You cannot have equality in society if algorithms and other automated systems that affect people's lives treat them differently based on the color of their skin." The Oregon Democrat says he will introduce a bill that would require audits of private sector algorithms and perhaps government systems as well. The IRS commissioner suggests that another issue may be unscrupulous and incompetent tax return preparers who disproportionately serve minority communities. He vows to stay, quote, laser focused to make changes before the next tax filing season. Clayton Sandell, Scripps News, Denver.
Retiring after being part of the workforce for decades is a big life change.
We think of it as this, kick your feet back and enjoy the newfound freedom without a career, when in reality, it's a really stressful period of time for folks. They lose, their structured day. They lose a lot of access to social contacts, so relationships that they had at work.
One study from the National Institutes of Health estimates that 28% of retirees experience symptoms of depression, but doctors say this number can fluctuate based on things like socioeconomic background and whether the person retired by choice. But no matter the circumstance, it's a good idea to check in with loved ones who are new to retirement. Here's what to look out for: cognitive changes like memory problems and indecision, physical symptoms like headaches, digestive issues, and worsening of any chronic pain, symptoms linked to sleep like fatigue and irritability. Doctors say maintaining a routine is key to combating all of this.
So going to bed at the same time every day and waking up at the same time every day, despite not having those obligations, maintaining relationships, taking time and energy out of your week to go and see people and spend time with others, getting involved, volunteering, not that you have to, but a lot of times people will find a part-time job that they enjoy.
She also suggests finding classes you may like at a community center and any exercise that can be tolerated. Target's quarterly sales could paint the picture of what's to come. Overall, sales ticked up last quarter compared to a year ago, but the retailer says digital sales dropped. Target says its shoppers pulled back on discretionary purchases like clothing and home goods and spent more on food and other necessities. This tax season, the IRS says it flagged more than 1 million tax returns for possible identity theft. That's when a criminal uses your information to file a return and claim your refund. As of early March, the IRS confirmed more than 12,000 tax returns were fraudulent. New data from Carfax shows more than 2.5 million vehicles with critical safety recalls remain unrepaired. This includes vehicles tagged with do not drive or park outside safety notifications. Consumers whose vehicles have any recalls at all are urged to get their vehicles fixed. Repair work is free at a nearby dealership.
We're getting a reality check on what buying a new car is going to be like in the future.
It's kind of jarring at first, right? Because you think, oh, that's the entry-level price point for a new car.
Recent numbers from Edmunds show don't count on getting a $20,000 new car anymore in a lot of cases, and the $25,000 price point is going extinct next.
That idea of a $20,000 car, although you might see something advertised starting at that price, transaction prices can be thousands of dollars more simply because people like options, right? People want big touch screens. People want the SUV instead of the sedan.
We're now seeing the rise of the $60,000 new car. 17% of cars sold in March were that price or more, compared to 6% 5 years ago. The $20,000 used car is getting harder to find, too. In the first part of this year, about 31% of used cars sold under that price, compared to about 61% 5 years ago. Edmunds found used car prices have gone down some compared to a year ago, but they're still up from what we were seeing before the pandemic. Car analysts expect used car prices to stay up through the rest of this year, but you do have options.
If you're looking for the closest thing to a new car and you're looking at used cars, look at certified pre-owned vehicles. They only exist on brand new car dealers' lots, but they are used cars that have been certified. They've been checked out and censored. They've got like 150-point inspections.
An older car with low mileage is another thing to consider. Also, know your car's trade-in value and shop around for pre-approved financing.
Is watching out for your Wednesday night plans. The Fort Myers Film Festival is actually kicking off tonight. It is happening at the Sidney and Byrne Davis Arts Center tonight through Sunday if you want to check it out. So screenings will also take place at the Image and other private venues around town. The festival features 79 independent films from all over the world, with many shot right here in Florida. You can buy tickets at thefortmyersfilmfestival.com. And while Hurricane Ian brought on a lot of devastation, it may actually be helping the snowy plovers on Sanibel. Those are these little guys you see right here. The Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation says the second snowy plover nest of the season has hatched on the island. That's a total of 6 hatchlings this year. The foundation says because fewer people and boats are on the beach after Ian, the birds have pretty much been unbothered, which helps them grow even faster, and we love to see it.
Fox 4 News at 5.
And helping you plan out your evening, overall conditions staying hot and dry for the vast majority of us. You have to head toward Lake Okeechobee to dodge any raindrops. Meanwhile, a live look outside right now showing off some beautiful conditions for downtown Naples. Notice those cumulus clouds? They're what we call fair weather cumulus. They're not growing very high vertically, and that's key. As meteorologists, that's one thing that we're always closely monitoring, what we're seeing in terms of energy. When we start to see those cumulus build upward, that indicates that potential for storm development. That's a maturing cumulonimbus, but not the case for today for the vast majority of us. But as we head right here toward Lake Okeechobee, still from Lakeport up to Buckhead Ridge, that is where we have this nearly stationary downpour right along 78. So on the northern side of Lake Okeechobee, that's where we're dodging raindrops. Otherwise, for the rest of us, it is hot and it is dry this evening. So please stay hydrated. Hopefully You can enjoy that beautiful sunset slated for 8:08. Overnight tonight, clear skies are expected. We'll kick off tomorrow morning by 7 a.m. though. A little bit of cloud cover, could have some areas of haze because of that elevated humidity outside. Otherwise, looking ahead to the afternoon, once again, best chance for those developing showers and storms staying to the east of I-75. So notice hit and miss for DeSoto, eastern Charlotte, inland Collier, inland Lee, back toward Hendry and Glades. That's where we're going to be seeing the best chance for those isolated downpours again tomorrow afternoon, while our coastline, our beaches, stay on the dry side. Same story as we head into your Friday. Friday morning featuring lots of sunshine. It's going to be a great day to get outside and enjoy again, staying hot. And then farther inland heading into the afternoon after 3 p.m. to the east of I-75. That's again where we'll see the concentration of those storms developing. Of course, I'll be with you here tracking them starting on Fox 4 News at 5. For tonight, though, clear skies as we drop down towards 72 degrees. Now, in terms of where we could see some areas of patchy haze develop, I'm looking specifically, these are your visibilities, your forecast visibilities in terms of miles. When we hit a half mile or less, that officially constitutes fog. But thankfully, our model's not picking up on that potential, likely just experiencing some haze for tomorrow morning because of that higher humidity concentration. Otherwise, lots of sunshine on the way. Temperature staying kind of sticky, generally in the upper 60s and lower 70s for tomorrow morning. As for those highs, we are pushing up toward 90 degrees in the afternoon. Of course, you factor in that humidity, it's going to feel even hotter, more like 93 to 95. But notice overall fairly consistent with that forecast tomorrow, heading toward 90 degrees for Immokalee, 88 for Naples, Punta Gorda, also calling for a high temperature around 90 degrees. 7-day forecast showing off those warm temperatures heading into the weekend in the lower 90s. As of right now, looks like we'll see a bit more activity on Saturday afternoon versus your Sunday.
For years, doctors have used medication to treat infants exposed to opioids in the womb. But a new approach that doesn't involve meds is getting babies healthy sooner. One baby with neonatal opioid withdrawal syndrome is born every 24 minutes in the U.S., according to the CDC. It happens when the mother uses substances during pregnancy and the baby experiences withdrawal symptoms after they're born. Traditionally, morphine is used to manage symptoms. But health experts we spoke with say a gentler approach known as Eat, Sleep, and Console is becoming more popular in hospital nurseries.
Putting the baby in a lower stimulating environment, so a darker room, quieter room, holding the baby, having skin-to-skin contact, rocking the baby, really allowing the baby to be calmer.
A new study found newborns cared for with the Eat, Sleep, and Console method were ready to go home about a week earlier than babies treated using the current approach. They also were more than 60% less likely to receive medication as part of their treatment.
Furthermore, it involved the families and the caretakers much more intensively, so there was a lot of parental education that went along with this treatment. And clearly it was a success.
Researchers followed these babies for 3 months after they were released from the hospital, and there was no evidence of negative effects.
Still to come on Fox 4 News at 6, we'll take you inside the courtroom for day 2 of the Joseph Zeiler murder trial, where today the prosecution put a real focus on crime scene DNA.
And a rec center that was a base for FEMA is transitioning back to a place for the community to come together.
Video game arcades are everywhere in Southwest Florida. We're finding out a state agency says they may not be there operating legally. Tonight, the warning from the Florida Gaming Control Commission, how they say they're working to shut down hundreds of sites.
And the trial for the man accused of killing and raping a Cape Coral 11-year-old and her babysitter more than 3 decades ago continues tonight. His interrogation plays out in court today. The trail of clues, detectives say, finally led them to Joseph Zeiler.
A recreational center opens for the first time since Hurricane Ian. How people feel this will help bring that sense of normalcy to one part of Cape Coral. As Fox 4 News at 6 starts now.
Live from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 6.
And thank you for watching Fox 4 News at 6 on this Wednesday evening. I'm Nadine Yanis.
And I am Chris Earl. We saw the emotional testimony in the trial for the man accused of a double murder from 1990. Today, much more technical in Lee County. A former Cape Coral detective says the biggest break in an unsolved murder from 1990 came with a simple phone call.
Yeah. This is day 2 of the Joseph Zeiler double murder trial, and jurors heard from the lead investigator who arrested Zeiler, accused of raping and murdering 11-year-old girl and her babysitter. They also watched an interrogation of Zeiler, arrested 3 decades later, who told the detectives that he didn't remember anything from the crime 33 years ago.
Fox 4's Ryan Kruger joining us live from the Lee County Courthouse just outside with the latest on the trial for this second day of testimony. Ryan, much of it revolving around the DNA in the case.
Yeah, because that really is the key piece of evidence, Chris, is that DNA, because that's what investigators say ultimately tied Joseph Zeiler to this murder case that, of course, happened 33 years ago. In fact, investigators believe if that DNA was not there, they may never have made an arrest.
This case has always been worked.
Retired Detective Christy Jo Ellis wasn't even on the force when 11-year-old Robin Cornell and her babysitter, Lisa Story, were found murdered in their Cape Coral home. More than 2 decades later, now as the lead investigator on the case, the biggest break comes.
I received a phone call at my desk from FDLE informing me that we had a hit on the Cornell Story double homicide.
That DNA, according to investigators, came from now 60-year-old Joseph Zeiler. Investigators explained his DNA was taken when he was arrested on an unrelated charge and put into a database.
Her name is Robin. She's not just a little girl. Her name is Robin.
Zeiler sat silently as jurors watched his interrogation with Detective Ellis on a TV monitor right next to his head.
I would describe him as nervous, evasive. His voice was cracking. He said that he didn't remember anything due to a closed head injury that he sustained, I believe, back in 1998.
The defense argues that Zeiler didn't know the victims, therefore would have no motive to commit these killings. They also argue Zeiler was never a suspect until that DNA match. The defense's line of questioning focused on whether or not it's possible for a family member's DNA to get a false result. The experts on the stand today said the DNA would be similar, but not the exact same.
Do you know what DNA is? No. You have no clue at all? No, ma'am.
And there's already been a shakeup in the jury. It was around 11:30 whenever the trial suddenly stopped for a few minutes, and one of the jurors told the judge and the attorneys in this case they were having trouble staying awake. They were falling asleep during testimony. The judge went ahead, excused that juror, and then placed the first alternate onto the jury. Deliberations begin tomorrow here at the Lee County Courthouse. We're live in downtown Fort Myers. I'm Ryan Kruger, Fox 4.
Thanks for the update, Ryan. New details about a security guard at a charter school accused of assaulting a student.
Yeah, now the head of security at the Canterbury School, Wyatt Henderson, has been arrested for possessing a firearm by a convicted felon. Now, Henderson was arrested on Monday, but the investigation started last Thursday, according to a complaint filed with the Lee County Sheriff's Office, reporting that Henderson was walking around the school with a gun. But an investigation revealed, however, that in 2006, he was convicted of 3 felonies. All of this stemming from a case in Charlotte County, where back then he was working as an undercover deputy during a drug investigation. So that case, Charlotte County deputies say Henderson was undercover when he approached a juvenile suspect that was believed to be selling marijuana. Deputies say Henderson, though, hit the kid in the face with the gun, fracturing that juvenile's jaw and cutting his chin. Now, in 2017, Henderson was granted his rights. They were restored following his sentence, except for one right, and that was the ability to own or carry a gun. And that is what led to his arrest again today.
2 different schools in Sarasota County went on brief lockdown because of bomb threats. Venice High School on lockdown for a time, along with Booker Middle School. That's in northern Sarasota County. And they're 19 miles apart, but law enforcement had the buildings clear out. And about an hour later, the all clear was given. Sarasota schools releasing a statement, though, saying the bomb threats were not substantial. And the lockdown ended at about 11:40 a.m. today. The district did note that extra patrols were on campus for the rest of the school day.
And in DeSoto County, deputies say they have arrested a man after they received multiple tips from several agencies that led to the discovery of child porn on this man's personal devices. Randy Joe Williams arrested over the weekend, facing multiple felony charges tonight. DeSoto County deputies telling Fox 4 he's now in custody, that more charges could be coming as their investigation continues.
And turning to our weather now across Southwest Florida, we start with a live look from the Bayfront and Tower camera located in downtown Naples. And as we look inland, you're noticing those cumulus clouds are what we call fair weather cumulus. They're not growing very high vertically, and that's crucial, basically meaning most of us are dry and hot this evening. So as we look live at our radar picture right now, conditions are quiet for the vast majority of us, but farther inland, closer to Lake Okeechobee, we are watching this nearly stationary storm from Lakeport up 78 to Buckhead Ridge, seeing some areas of heavy rainfall there for the northern side of Lake Okeechobee. So keeping a close eye on that downpour, but otherwise elsewhere we are dry. So this is your planning forecast for this evening. Other than the heat, it's going to be a great evening to get outside and enjoy before full-fledged rainy season really kicks in. And we'll talk more about that weather pattern, and we'll see that shift in your 7-day forecast next.
Right, Katie, and going back to the Zeiler trial, which was our top story of the day, we have documented every step of this trial for you. We even give you an in-depth look, so you're going to want to search fox4now.com, the most recent article on that trial. All the way to the bottom, you're actually going to see a report from Fox 4's Amy Wegman from 10 years ago, just before Zeiler was arrested. Amy actually spoke with the victim's mother, who took the stand yesterday. There you can also hear the 911 call the night she walked in and found her daughter and babysitter dead. Again, that was our top story of the night. Head over to fox4now.com for more details.
Estero-based rental car company Hertz apologizing to a man for denying him a car. The man claims a worker did not rent him a car, claiming the customers from Puerto Rico did not show a passport. This was at a counter in New Orleans, and that is usually the correct protocol for an international customer. Like all citizens, though, of the U.S. territory, people from Puerto Rico do not need to show a passport to fly or rent a car in the U.S. The customer says in a formal complaint, the Hertz desk worker threatened to call Border Patrol. Hertz has not made a public statement on whether or not the employee has been disciplined.
Well, Collier County officials tonight want people who are still struggling after Hurricane Ian to catch up on bills to know that there's help now available. The county says that it has multiple grants of up to $20,000 to give to qualifying applicants. This money does come from the State Housing Initiative Partnership Fund, also known as SHIP. Applicants must live in Collier County and have to be a resident when Ian hit back on September 28th. Up to $20,000 is available. Also, the governor signing a couple of big pieces of legislation today. One of them, now officially Florida law that bans gender-affirming care for minors. It also targets drag shows, and another restricts the discussion of personal pronouns in schools. Now, the governor called it the Let Kids Be Kids law. It also forces people to use certain bathrooms. Now, Equality Florida says that this most recent law is the most restrictive, and they call it anti-LGBTQ legislation in the state's history.
Florida lawmakers have also been moving more bills to the governor's desk that will allow a specific radioactive material for roadway pavement. That material is phosphogypsum, found in mines like the one at Piney Point in Manatee County, which mines phosphate. Those mines are used for fertilizer, and they have huge wells that hold stacks of radioactive gypsum. The new bill signed in Florida allows gypsum to be used in pavement. FDOT, though, is doing studies to see how much gypsum is safe to use. The study should be all done by the end of the year, but the new pavement law will take effect on July 1st of this year.
Well, with hurricane season quickly approaching, we are still finding out what some of the big takeaways and lessons learned from Hurricane Ian are. Michael Paluska from our partners in Tampa at WFTS is at a resiliency seminar to find out what experts think the whole state could do differently next time.
What are the solutions we have to start doing now?
Well, there's two things you need to do. One is we should probably not be putting anybody else in harm's way. Resisting the urge to continue to develop in the floodplain or low-lying areas is the low-hanging fruit for sustainability and resilience.
At the Tampa Bay Regional Resiliency Summit, we met Rob Young. He is the director of the program for the study of developed shorelines at Western Carolina University. He tells me sea level rise will cause water tables to go up, creating more flooding inland, and powerful storms will only make things worse. His advice: build smarter, more resilient, and for Floridians to prepare for a state that won't look the same over the next 40 years.
I don't think anybody ever likes the idea of bulldozing homes. But, for example, every storm is an opportunity, right? Ian bulldozed homes. Government didn't. How we rebuild following Hurricane Ian will say a lot about how we view the future. If we just put absolutely everything back exactly where it was, then we missed an opportunity to take a baby step back, save money, and spend money in places where it's a lot more sustainable.
And that was Michael Paluska reporting. Well, the lifting of Title 42, it really has caused a lot of confusion and concerns across the nation.
Also why we're asking leaders right here in Florida directly for more context and more information. Still ahead, a conversation between Fox 4 and U.S. Senator Rick Scott, where we ask the senator what he thinks Florida's role needs to be in the crisis at the southern border.
Plus, a Cape Coral Recreational Center is reopened for the first time since Ian, and the organizers for the Kennedy Center say it is bringing a sense of normalcy back to the community. We take you there.
Temperatures today on the toasty side. Punta Gorda hitting 89, 87 for Naples. Fort Myers, not quite in record territory, but still a couple of degrees above normal. And we're talking more about even greater heat on the way, and plus those higher rain chances moving in for the weekend.
Getting back to get inside at our normal time is more than refreshing.
A refreshing change, a fresh start for the Lake Kennedy Center in Cape Coral, where moving forward, it will no longer serve as a place for disaster relief. Since Hurricane Ian hit, the Senior Rec Center has been a home base for FEMA, shutting down most of the center's daily operations. But tonight, Fox 4's Colton Chavez also showing us how the center is closing the door on Ian to reopen to the city of Cape Coral.
Since Hurricane Ian, the Lake Kennedy Center has really been a meeting ground for both hurricane relief and resources. Even standing here now, you've got the Lake Kennedy Center on one side, and on the other side, Hurricane Ian debris trucks still staged right outside of their property. So what I'm learning tonight is while outside of the center here in the city of Cape Coral, while we're still dealing with the oddities from the storm, it's inside the center that we're starting to get a taste of what normal feels like.
That's normal for us. We've been trying to go along with whatever they had, come whenever we can.
A celebration of getting back to normal for the Lake Kennedy Center in Cape Coral, where since the storm, Hurricane Ian forced out operations and clubs so it can operate as a FEMA disaster recovery center.
I belong to a group that is named Act It Out. We put on 2 shows a year. They're usually hysterical.
But that time is over for people like Linda Conti, now that the center has reclaimed the space from FEMA and has opened its doors once again to the public.
We've been practicing in another building, in a room that was like the size of a closet. We need to get back here where the stage is, so we're thrilled it's reopening.
Thank you, Lake Kennedy Center. A reopening that Jody Costello, the rec center's manager, says is being kicked off with live music and a welcoming event for its longtime patrons. Costello says FEMA took over the site back in early November, where it operated as a place for survivors to apply for disaster assistance. 7 months later, and those moves towards recovery are now replaced with moves like these. And with it, a promise.
Getting back to get inside at our normal time is more than refreshing.
In Cape Coral, Colton Chavez, Fox 4.
Yeah, that looked like a party there that Colton Chavez reporting. Well, Charlotte County deputies are sharing new video of a cleanup project, partnering with several nonprofits to clear out 12 abandoned homeless camps in what was called Operation Clean Sweep. Now, they worked with Charlotte County Beautiful, the Charlotte County Homeless Coalition, Department of Corrections, and many more nonprofits to clean up about 7,600 pounds of trash collected at these sites all across the county.
Leaders with the Pink Shell Resort at Fort Myers Beach say one very popular part of the resort is almost all set to reopen for the first time since Ian. The resort says the Octopool is filled with water and just about ready for the splashing guests to hit the water there. Pink Shell says we're days away from the pool opening up permanently by the end of next week. The hotel also says the official grand opening should be announced.
Yeah, and I was there right after Hurricane Ian. It was devastating to see it. And they said that the storm surge had come up to that iconic octopus. It was obviously devastating.
It's about 13 feet there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So
really
it
incredible.
entered a lot of second-story units there, yes.
And another great day to be able to go swimming.
Oh my
where they hit
gosh,
those
yes.
record highs tonight. I saw we were a little bit short, but again, nobody's going to complain about that if you're at the pool.
And it felt like a record day, right?
Yeah,
When we're
wow.
talking, we've been talking about the humidity,
And
making it
feels
feel
like.
more like it. Exactly, that heat index. It's all about that heat index. And shower and storm chances staying pretty limited, pretty isolated here for the next several days. I just updated these rain probabilities based upon some of the latest data here in the Fox 4 Weather Center. As of right now, it looks like they will stay isolated through the weekend. Then starting next week, we will begin to see that transition. So it's the big transition that we've been waiting for. Of course, rainy season technically began on May 15th. Sometimes it comes a bit earlier, sometimes a bit later, and it looks like this time it's slightly delayed. Let's take a live look now outside for those of you venturing out to downtown Naples. It is picture perfect. Of course, you do want to stay hydrated. Just some fair weather cumulus clouds outside, but they are not growing upward, and that's always what we are focused on. If we start to see those towering cumulus develop, then we are paying close attention to radar. But in this case, look at that. Not bad at all. Now, temperatures, we're at 84 degrees. Dew point, the measure of moisture in the air, that has come up. With it being at 70 degrees, which is on the muggy side, it's feeling more like 88. So we do have a bit of a heat index out there across Southwest Florida right now. And the very latest heat indices, or feels like temperatures, when you factor the temperature in with the humidity, this is what it feels like on your skin. 92 in Clewiston and Moorhaven, more like 92 for LaBelle. Arcadia still feeling more like 94. Cape Coral right now feeling more like 90. Port Charlotte's feeling more like 91. So no surprise that heat, humidity helping to fuel some showers and storms, but with those westerly winds, all of that has been forced farther inland. So right here in Glades County, northern Glades County, specifically right along 78th and northern side, northwestern side of Lake Okeechobee, between Lakeport up to Buckhead Ridge, this stubborn stationary storm continues to be a problem, likely for the next hour or so. Otherwise, things will stay nice and quiet for the vast majority of us through this evening. Overnight tonight, clear skies becoming partly cloudy. We'll have some areas of haze right here around 7 a.m. for that morning commute, but as of right now, based upon the latest data, not foreseeing the threat for fog really slowing down things, so good news there. Heading into the afternoon, again, with those westerly winds picking up, that will help to force any thunderstorm energy farther inland to the east of I-75. So that will keep our coast dry. That'll keep 41 dry, 75 dry, but farther inland, DeSoto, inland Charlotte, eastern Lee, Collier County, farther inland, Glades, Hendry, that's where we're going to be seeing most of that activity bubble up for tomorrow afternoon and evening. So overnight tonight, we'll drop down towards 72 degrees, clear skies, some areas of haze for that morning commute. Otherwise, for tomorrow afternoon, up to 90 we go, but feeling more like 93 to 95 when you factor in that humidity. And with those westerly winds between 10 to 15 miles per hour, that will help to force any isolated showers and storms that do develop farther inland away from the coastline. Heading into your Friday, inland afternoon storms in the mix. Isolated afternoon storms expected both Saturday into Sunday, then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's when we'll bump up those rain chances to 60%.
Thanks, Kate. Did you hear about this story? A teenage girl reunited with her family in Illinois after 6 years. We'll tell you how the Netflix show Unsolved Mysteries is getting the credit for solving an abduction case in North Carolina. That's ahead.
Well, taking a look at our top stories across the nation tonight, the man suspected of killing 4 Idaho college students has officially been indicted by a grand jury. This is Brian Koberger, now facing 4 counts of murder and a single count of burglary as a part of an investigation stemming back to November. Now, the indictment now allows Idaho prosecutors to avoid a week-long preliminary hearing. They can just jump right into the prosecution of this case. Koberger was arrested in December and extradited from Pennsylvania. He now faces the death penalty if convicted.
Real story coming out of Illinois and North Carolina today. A girl who was abducted more than 6 years ago when she was only 9 has been found safe and now with family in North Carolina. Detectives say this was made possible with the help of the Netflix show Unsolved Mysteries. It's back on Netflix after its original run back in the 90s. According to the Center for Missing and Exploited Children, this case dates back to 2017 when Kayla Unbahan, who was then 9, abducted by her mother, who did not have custody of the girl. Detectives say it's remarkable the mother was able to keep the girl off the grid for all 6 years. But she was arrested after a store manager reported seeing the girl, who's now 15. That store manager was tipped off by another person who reportedly spotted Kayla on Unsolved Mysteries. Still ahead, Collier County deputies are showing off some of the new technology to keep people safe during an emergency. And we're also learning more about how anyone can access them. That's coming up.
And Governor Ron DeSantis signed a law taking EDI initiatives almost completely out of Florida classrooms. But you may be wondering what even is EDI. Coming up, students currently enrolled in Florida schools will tell you.
Collier County deputies are showing off the tools they use to keep us safe during a crisis.
Maybe you need to escalate response to that individual.
Tonight, we're learning how these tools work and how they can help you.
Governor Ron DeSantis signs legislation banning EDI in Florida's classrooms. So what changes now? Plus, Cape Coral honoring fallen police officers in Southwest Florida. Fox 4 cameras there to capture this important event.
Live from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 6.
Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday night for Fox 4 News at 6, and thanks for keeping it here. I'm Chris Earl.
And I'm Nadine Yanis. A beautiful evening, but we begin this half hour with a crackdown on suspected illegal gambling right here in Southwest Florida. If you head to any of these video arcades on a regular basis, you're going to want to hear the warnings tonight.
And they're everywhere, all throughout Lee County, all throughout Southwest Florida. It seems you can't go a mile of retail without seeing one. Numerous agencies say they're watching more than 100 video arcades just in Southwest Florida, with the State Gaming Commission heading up the efforts.
Now, the commission says the arcades with slot machines in them in particularly are most likely breaking Florida law, and it attracts even more crime, they say.
These sites breed further violent crimes like robberies, shootings, prostitution, human trafficking. When you have that much cash on hand, it just breeds other violent crimes.
And this is an investigation. It spans the entire state. So tonight we're now going to bring in Fox 4's Elise Chingari, who spoke with the Gaming Commission as well as nearby businesses throughout this Wednesday to learn more. Elise.
Chris and Nadine, obviously when you go out throughout areas here in Southwest Florida, it's hard not to notice these arcades practically on every corner inside every shopping plaza. And we came across dozens today. And we actually saw this sign, we're closed on this door here. You also notice this sign. The Florida Gaming Control Commission says they don't even recognize this because everything, the regulations only go through them. And back to this closed sign, you could possibly see more of these throughout our area as the Florida Gaming Control Commission says they are cracking down on illegal arcades here in Southwest Florida. Another and another arcade. The Gaming Commission says they sent out multiple letters to arcades operating illegally. 70 letters throughout Charlotte County, 4 in Collier, and 59 letters sent to arcades in Lee County.
And he told me this morning, no, you shut down for good.
People we spoke with, including nearby businesses next to these arcades, like many, didn't realize just how many are operating illegally.
I didn't know it was illegal here. I know it's not legal everywhere, but I didn't particularly know here it was.
These things are in violation of Florida law, and they are also victimizing the public and taking advantage of them. And our goal is to have them all closed.
Florida Gaming Control Commission, also known as FGCC, is calling this a critical public safety issue. Director of Law Enforcement Carl Harold adding that since 2020, Florida has seen a significant increase in these illegal adult arcades.
These sites breed further violent crimes like robberies, shootings, prostitution, human trafficking. When you have that much cash on hand, it just breeds other violent crimes.
To gather all the information to create a good enough criminal case for prosecution in court, it does take a while. You can't just walk in or do it over a couple of days. For successful prosecution, you have to collect a lot of information, and that takes time.
Now, if you suspect illegal gambling activity, Florida Gaming Control Commission, they're asking for your help here in Southwest Florida. So, of course, this is Lee, Collier, and Charlotte County. They say if you notice any of that kind of activity, you need to report it to them. They said they check all reviews. You also need to call your local law enforcement. They say that way they can stop this illegal activity that's happening in our state of Florida. Live here in Lee County, Elise Chingari, Fox 4.
Elise, thank you. Well, the Collier County Sheriff's Office is working with a new 911 technology that they say is already helping cut down on response times and helping to respond to major events like Hurricane Ian.
Fox 4 meteorologist Andrew Shipley also shows us right now how the system is getting used.
Rapid SOS connects your smartphone directly with 911 without signing up, giving the operator information like your exact location. And if you have your health information on your phone, it will automatically be gathered and sent directly to first responders. It also connects apps like Uber's SOS system and provides 911 operators with information like the driver and the license plate of the vehicle.
Collier County was part of the original beta testing of Rapid SOS in 2017 and has been an active user since 2019. Collier County Sheriff Kevin Renbos says this technology is already paying off, providing the Sheriff's Office with the exact location of a plane that crashed in the Everglades in 2021 via a 911 call. Sheriff Renbos says this technology is great when people don't know where they are.
When we can pinpoint a location of someone who may be lost or they may be injured and they don't know where they're at, we can respond much more quickly to that emergency.
This technology was also key during Hurricane Ian. With the hurricane storm surge flooding the coastline, Rapid SOS helped the Sheriff's Office respond to calls in the order of importance. This is because the system puts all the calls on one map.
You can see where there's hot spots and pockets of need. Second is getting enough information to effectively triage. So for example, someone who has pre-existing health conditions, maybe you need to escalate response to that individual.
And this is just the start. CEO and founder of Rapid SOS, Michael Martin, tells Fox 4 this company is working on ways to improve the system even further, including things like gunshot detection and 3D mapping.
Some examples of what that might look like is actually using the camera systems in our schools to detect weapons before the first shot is even fired. One other example would be in our own homes. Like many people have a home security system, but traditionally that has existed separate from our 911 system. So now if you opt into it, you can actually allow 911 to digitally get your location of your home and potentially even the external camera.
The sheriff's office tells me that once this technology is available, they'll be looking to add it to their current system. The Rapid SOS system is completely funded via grant for the next 5 years, meaning no cost to the taxpayer. In studio, meteorologist Andrew Shipley, Fox 4.
Well, new tonight, the state attorney's office is not approving a warrant for the arrest of the former fire inspector on Marco Island.
This happening despite FDLE agents saying that they found more than 200 possible cases of fraudulent inspections at Collier County businesses and homes.
So according to the FDLE documents, agents became aware of possible fake inspection reports that former fire inspectors made in April of 2022. Now, agents learned of more than 200 questionable inspections in late 2021. The investigation reached the state attorney's office in February of this year.
And after reviewing the information, the state attorney's office decided to deny the warrant for the arrest of the former fire inspectors at Marco Island. Amira Fox's office says there was just insufficient evidence to prove beyond the shadow of a doubt that those inspections were fraudulent. The Marco Island Police Department had been notified, and the state attorney is now calling this case closed.
Well, the city of Sanibel is also tracking its crime rates after Ian. And listen to this. Their crime and call statistics report shows a 91% increase in crimes in 2022 compared to 2021. And they say most all of those stats show it happened after Hurricane Ian. Right here, 64% of all crime on Sanibel happened on or after September 28th, which was the day that Ian hit. And burglary was by far the worst. The report shows a 610% increase in burglaries in Sanibel, with only 9 reported back in 2021, but take a look, 64 in 2022. Most of all, again, the burglaries happening after Hurricane Ian. Now, the police chief assuring residents tonight, though, saying that assaults are down and adding that most of the crimes, since they were burglaries and thefts, those properties have since been secured, saying, quote, Sanibel remains a safe community.
The Collier County Sheriff's Office says it is looking for a 41-year-old woman who's been missing since Monday. Stephanie Lewis's family says she was last seen near a home by Golden Gate Parkway and Santa Barbara Boulevard. In Collier County, families very concerned. Anyone who might have information on Stephanie Lewis's whereabouts should reach out to the Collier County Sheriff's Office.
Well, today, Fox 4 morning anchor Chris Shaw sat down one-on-one with Senator Rick Scott, talking on a variety of issues impacting our state. At 5, you heard how Senator Scott is hoping to expand the school guardian program to put officers in every school across the country. Well, now at 6, we go in depth on immigration, specifically asking the senator for his reaction to Governor DeSantis sending hundreds of resources from Florida to the U.S. southern border following the expiration of Title 42 last week.
How do you feel about the state legislature here in Florida allocating millions of dollars to continue the migrant relocation program?
Del Rio, I think they were telling me I was there, it's something like 47,000 people. And in that area, it's thousands of people coming across every day. You can't, I mean, I don't know how you can, I don't know how these communities cope with the needs of the people, because they need shelter, they need food, they need water, they need medical care. And so I think that what you know, governors are doing around the country is they're saying that you know, we can't afford to provide this care, whether we, and it's like, I know when I talk to mayors, they want to take care of people, but I mean, they just know that the local resources, they can't afford it.
And DeSantis made that announcement yesterday. He said that he is sending these resources to Texas, including 800 National Guard and state law enforcement. We're talking 100 Florida Highway Patrol troopers, 200 FDLE officers, and again, 800 National Guard there, as well as sending over equipment like airboats, drones, and other vessels to help border agents patrol the area in Texas.
And now also those states are still bracing for a rush of migrants seeking asylum in the U.S. Tonight we see Border Patrol agents not just patrolling the border along the land, but also the open seas as well in the Pacific. Border Patrol and Coast Guard agents say that they are both aware of more smugglers taking migrants or lethal drugs and trying to sneak either into the U.S. near San Diego. Border agents on the water say over the past 7 months that they've had more than 100,000 migrant encounters from smuggler boats and patrols from San Francisco all the way south to San Diego.
Well, it is National Police Week, and this morning the Cape Coral Police Department held a ceremony to honor officers that gave the ultimate sacrifice. Fox 4's John Barron covered the ceremony this morning as members of the community paid their respects.
This morning at about 9:30 a.m. is when Cape Coral PD held their honor for those who gave everything in the line of duty. You can see behind me the memorial that stands here all day, every day. No names on it, but it is a forever remembrance of those who gave everything in that line of duty. As you can see, this was a part of really the background and really the foundation of the message that really we heard from Cape Coral PD this morning. And they're not the only ones. Lee County is having theirs to honor those fallen deputies. They had theirs at 10 o'clock, but we got the chance to hear from Cape Coral PD about what the community can do to honor those who have given so much.
Well, when we talk about National Police Week, there's always words of remember, pay respect, and honor. But those are action words. And what we ask of ourselves, myself included, our employees, and also the community at large, is partnership, work together. I say pick up the baton for those who have fallen and continue to complete the mission that they started out.
Now, this is just one of the many that you'll see all throughout Southwest Florida, remembering those who have given their lives in the line of duty. But you guys can always check out our website at fox4now.com for all the latest during Police Week. For now, here outside of CCPD headquarters, John Barron, Fox 4.
And turning to our weather now, tomorrow morning, do expect some areas of haze. It'll be another muggy start in the low 70s. And then for the afternoon, heading home from school, heading home from work, best chance for storms staying inland. But that won't be the case through my entire 7-day forecast. I'll have that for you next.
Well, with a sign of his pen, the governor has removed equality, diversity, and inclusion from much of Florida's curriculum. Governor DeSantis saying it was something that was indoctrinating students in Florida schools. The big question now is, though, how did EDI show up in the classroom before, and what does this change? Well, Chris Gilmore from our Scripps partner station in West Palm Beach, WPTV, has the details tonight.
DEI is better viewed as standing for discrimination, exclusion, and indoctrination, and that has no place in our public institutions.
Florida Atlantic University junior Sarah Romeo says she disagrees.
Diversity is important, and there's nothing wrong with including and making people feel like they belong.
With recent controversial diversity, equity, and inclusion legislation making its way to the governor's desk, Romeo and her friends worry that comfort on campus won't last long.
It's creating a divide that doesn't need to be there between every single community, which honestly sucks because we've worked so hard in the past to get to where we are, and it feels like we're taking 50 steps backwards.
Early Monday afternoon, Governor DeSantis signed Senate Bill 266 into law. It prohibits institutions from spending federal or state dollars on what his office calls discriminatory initiatives like DEI programs.
And what this does is reorient our universities back to their traditional mission. And part of that traditional mission is to treat people as individuals, not to try to divvy them up based on any type of superficial characteristics. We're going to elevate merit and achievement above identification with certain groups.
Chair of Government Relations for FAU Staff Union, United Faculty Florida, Nicole Morris, defines DEI and how it affects people like them.
It's an effort to ensure that our institutions are welcoming and accessible to all. Historically, certain people, including people like myself, a queer person, someone who was assigned female at birth, we have not been invited into institutions. And of course, for people of color, that is even compounded by the legacy of discrimination and segregation.
Both Romeo and Kobe agree seeing DEI initiatives go away across the state makes FAU and Florida seem less welcoming.
Of course, we're watching very closely for when rainy season will hit. Some people in Cape Coral especially got a burst of it yesterday, but not here today yet.
Yeah, technically May 15th is the start, but let's go ahead and bring in certified meteorologist Katie Walls as we are tracking whatever rain chances we might be seeing anytime soon.
That's right. So those shower and storm chances for now staying inland. And that's going to be the case as we wrap up the work week and head into the weekend. But look at this, starting on Monday, that's when we'll really start to see that transition into what is more of a traditional rainy season pattern, featuring most of us dealing with those storms developing after 2 p.m. So first, let's take a live look outside. The vast majority of us this evening, nice and dry. Here we are looking live from the Luminary Hotel in downtown Fort Myers. Just some fair weather cumulus clouds outside. Otherwise, it has really been the heat and humidity up against Southwest Florida this afternoon and evening. And another perspective, beautiful blue here from the Bayfront Inn in downtown Naples. So regardless of where you are, it is certainly looking nice for those outdoor plans, but it is on the warm side. Look at this. We're at 84 degrees, but that dew point, it's up to 70. The higher the dew point goes, the stickier the air feels. 70-degree dew point, that is muggy for sure. And that's causing it to feel more like 88 degrees. So we are factoring in that extra 3 to 5 degrees each afternoon for that heat index. And that's going to be another concern of mine heading into tomorrow. Even at this hour, as we near 7 p.m., it is still feeling more like 92 in Palmdale and LaBelle when you factor that humidity in with the temperature. Arcadia is still feeling more like 94, Punta Gorda 88. Right now, Fort Myers and Lehigh Acres feeling more like 91 degrees. And as we just talked about, not all of us are getting cooled down. As a matter of fact, the only storm that I've been tracking for you since Fox 4 News at 5 has been this stubborn downpour right here on the northwestern side of Lake Okeechobee. Now it is just to the south of 78, but basically between Lakeport to Buckhead Ridge. That is the storm, the one and only storm in Southwest Florida that we are monitoring for you here in the Fox 4 Weather Center. Otherwise, overnight tonight, we are expecting clear skies. And tomorrow morning with that humidity, there will be some areas of haze. But as of right now, not expecting any significantly reduced areas of visibility. That could slow you down. So not really worried about fog. Basically, that visibility has to drop to a half mile or less for it to officially be fog, so we'll have some haze in the mix, but again, not really expecting any hiccups from that. Looking ahead to the afternoon, those westerly winds will pick up. That's going to be crucial because that will basically determine where the storms set up. What are our winds doing? Well, with those westerly winds, again, that will keep that energy inland. So the farther inland you are, the better the chance you have for dealing with those developing downpours in the afternoon. But rain chances tomorrow, like they will be on Friday, running around 30%. So for your Friday morning, also another quiet start, but right here around 3 p.m., those showers and storms start to bubble up. And then once that westerly wind fully kicks in, that will force most of that energy inland by around 5 p.m. Overnight tonight, clear skies, some areas of haze for that morning commute will drop down to 72. Afternoon highs up to 90, but feeling more like 93 to 95. Inland afternoon storms in the mix the next couple of days. Few storms on tap for your Saturday, Sunday afternoons. And starting on Monday, do not leave home without that umbrella.
The new list out from U.S. News with 2 areas in Southwest Florida among the top 10 to live in the U.S. Green Bay, Wisconsin is number 1. Might be because people who live there are not going to be burdened by the cost of playoff tickets for a few years. Huntsville is 2, Raleigh is 3, Boulder, Colorado 4, Sarasota is 5, and also in Southwest Florida, Naples checking in at number 6 on the list.
There's also a lot of wildlife in Florida. Sometimes it shows up when you least expect it. Look at this. Lee County Sheriff's Office says a bear was caught scampering around Manatee Park when deputies were out for an early patrol. You always got to watch out for wildlife here in Southwest Florida.
Lock your doors.
Yes.
They can sniff out anything, even mint gum. Thanks for joining us here for Fox 4 News at 6.
We'll see you again at 10 o'clock.